Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypherbox, and let's talk about Triple G being stripped by the IBF for his IBF world title at middleweight. Okay, so the bottom line is he's been stripped because he didn't defend his title against his mandatory challenger Sergiy Derevyanchenko, and as a result was stripped of his title. Now, instead he chose to defend his title against Vance Mariusian, and which he got a second round knockout against, should I say, and he's been stripped of his title. Now, the real reason behind this is that let's be honest, the Triple G fight, Triple G versus Canelo fight rematch, obviously Oscar De La Hoya, as you know, recently said that that's it, they're moving on, because Triple G made these demands of 50-50, etc., and they're going to fight Daniel Jacobs now. So the IBF will probably turn around and say, well, there's not going to be a unification fight here between Canelo and Triple G, so therefore we're going to strip you off the belt because you're not going to make your mandatory defense, so let's take the belt off you. And that's what they've done. I saw an interview with Michelle Joy Phelps the other day. She interviewed Abel Sanchez, and Abel Sanchez said that he basically said that, you know, the belts can go because they're not going to give, you know, Triple G is going to make his decisions about what he wants to do, and basically he's not going to be dictated to by the governing bodies, the IBF or the WBC. Okay, here's my take on it. Who remembers 2016? Okay, back then I didn't have a YouTube channel where I talked about boxing, yeah? I did it all over social media. But I remember in 2016, do you remember Canelo Alvarez, when the WBC mandated him to defend his WBC middleweight title against Triple G, and he chose to vacate his belt? Right? He chose to vacate his belt, which everyone called him out and said, you're ducking Triple G. Alright? I was one of those people who said that this is a clear duck. He doesn't want to fight Triple G, so he's vacated the belt. Even though the reasons were like his lawsuit and he wasn't going to be dictated to by the WBC, he'll do it when he's ready to, etc. and all that sort of stuff. And he had a whole falling out with Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC. I was one of those people who called him out for that. Okay? This is exactly the same as that. You didn't want to fight your IBF mandatory challenger, so you ducked him. And as a result, you got stripped of your world title. Simple as that. There's no ifs and there's no buts about it. That's how it is. All you Triple G fans were all over Canelo Alvarez. So was I. I was all over Canelo Alvarez back in 2016 for doing that. Yeah? So no one can jump on here and start saying, oh, I'm making excuses for Triple G, basically. Because he's done exactly the same thing. Do you want to fight his mandatory challenger? Got stripped of his title. Now, he could have avoided all of this, of course. He could have easily avoided it. He could have stopped making ridiculous demands of a 50-50 split to fight Canelo Alvarez. Yeah? Or he could have probably tried to make a unification fight with Billy Joe Saunders. And as you know, a unification fight with Billy Joe Saunders would trump a mandatory defense of your titles. But he opted to do neither. Yeah? And subsequently, he was stripped of his title because of that. Because he wasn't going to face his mandatory either. Now, I'm curious to see what happens next. Because the WBC have also turned around and said, well, if there's no Canelo fight, you must fight your mandatory challenger, which is Jamal Charlo. So it'll be interesting to see now whether Triple G, yeah, will take on his WBC mandatory challenger, Jamal Charlo, or will he duck him and get stripped of his belt? That's what I'm waiting to see. This wasn't going to be a long video on this subject, to be honest with you. I'm going to do another video on Triple G. I am going to talk about the whole fiasco he's caused with his 50-50 demand. I don't want to say too much because I want to kind of save it for that video. But in terms of him being stripped of his title, do you know what I mean? In my opinion, clear duck. Yeah? if you're not going to fight Billy Joe Saunders and you're not going to fight Canelo Alvarez, then you need to fight your mandatory challenger. And they come in order. So the IBF one was first ordered, so he has to defend it against his IBF mandatory challenger. And he's chosen not to. He's never had an issue in the past meeting his mandatory defenses. He's never had an issue with it in the past. So I don't understand why he's got an issue with it now. Doesn't make sense to me. The only thing I could put it down to is he's ducking him and he doesn't want that fight. It's as simple as that, really. Let me know what you think. As always, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.